Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about being a hero and when and capability and willingness, and how we're seeing this in other we're se- we see this structure in other narrative engines, but we don't have the we don't have the social interaction, high mechanical complexity we need to model it in Dungeons and Dragons, and the need to build that out. All right, so let's jump into this. So I just watched the film End of the Road, starring Queen Latifah and Ludacris. It just dropped this weekend. Spoilers for End of the Road in this content. All right, so End of the Road does something really, really fascinating, and I didn't understand why until until I learned more about the movie. So, and you know what? I'll keep it contained here. All right, okay. So it does this really fascinating thing, which is, all right, it asks the question, heroing? It's like, who's going to hero and when? That's the question that's being asked, right? So this movie puts forward a black family, an African American family, and that family is Queen Latifah, and she has a teenage daughter, and she has a elementary age son, and her husband has just died of cancer. Okay, and Queen Latifah, she's the mom, right? And that is her identity. She really, she's like, hey, I'm your mother. This is going to happen because I said it. Very mom type, right? The character, right? Ludacris is the uncle, and he's the cool uncle, right? So he's like the uncle, never got married, little crazy, like little, just does some outlandish things. And that's the character they're portraying for Ludacris, right? The uncle, right? So basically, they used to live in Los Angeles. The husband, the mom's husband gets cancer and dies, but she spent everything they had just for one or two more treatments to try to heal him. And so they're broke, and they have to move to Texas. So they go on a road trip from Los Angeles to Texas, okay? And so they're going on this road trip. They're going from Los Angeles to Texas, right? And on the way, they encounter a lot of prejudice, deep prejudice based on the color of their skin, okay? And so there are these people who are harassing them, and there's this opportunity for heroing, right? But there's also a huge amount of risk around heroing, because if you've ever had a tavern barroom, so there's a lot of risk around heroing because of the teenage daughter and the elementary age kid. There's a good chance that when the heroing starts, they're going to get hurt, right? Because once heroing starts, all kinds of things go up in the air, things start to tumble, and you don't know where everything's going to fall, and it might fall on somebody you care about, right? So so the movie asks this question of who's going to hero and when, right? And the mom character says very clearly, says it multiple times in the film, I'm not going to hero because I don't want anybody to get hurt, right? But the movie also makes it clear that she is 100% capable of heroing, right? And very capable of heroing, okay? And but she's only capable of heroing when her children are under threat. At no other time will she even be willing. She can't hero because she's not willing to hero. But the movie makes it incredibly clear that she is capable of heroing, but she's never willing to hero until her children are put into direct harm, and then her willingness fully kicks in and her capability fully kicks in, right? Ludacris is in this situation where he is they say it multiple times. It's one of my favorite parts of the movie. They're like, I'm an assistant Chick-fil-A manager. I'm a Chick-fil-A assistant manager. And like, it's great product placement, but this guy Ludacris, he seems like a joke, right? But the reality is he's not a joke. He has a good head on his shoulders. He just adds some cool to his life because he wants some cool in his life. But he's very capable, and he is very willing, right? And what does he need to hero? Nothing. I thought, because he keeps rolling like hard against these people who are being like prejudiced and making incredible risks, and his sister keeps, the mom keeps like, don't hero right now because somebody could get hurt, and he's like, let me hero, man. I could do this, right? And I'm like, how are you going to do it? Those people have like shotguns, but you don't seem to have anything. Oh, you must be strapped. There must be something in your like, your gear, right? But then the movie makes it clear, no, at no point was he ever strapped. He did not have anything. And so how is he going to hero without any equipment, right? But I love this. One of my favorite parts of Better Call Saul is is Mike, who's this Fring's assistant, pulls up and he's like, hey, I'm ready to, I'm going to go on this job with you and I'll protect you on this job. And is hiring to go on a drug deal, right? And the guy says, hey, you don't have a gun. And he's like, I don't need a gun, right? And he's like, we're going on a drug deal. You're going to need a gun. And it's the best thing that happens in Better Call Saul. And Mike is like, if I need a gun, I'll just take yours. And that's what Ludacris was saying. He's like, if when it goes down, I will become a whirling dervish death. And anything around me is going to become a weapon. And your weapon might become my weapon. But the reality is, one of us is going to drop into the dirt and it ain't going to be me, right? Like, and it's a very, like, his character is like, I'm always ready to hero, always willing. And frankly, I don't care what's on falls on who, right? Because justice needs to be served. And I absolutely loved this film and I've actually, one of my players, who I call my shenanigan player, who I'm starting to think is actually pretty brilliant, right? I think he's brilliant, but doesn't want to, like, be under the burden of not. He's definitely brilliant at certain times, but then he'll put forward kind of shenanigans material, almost telling you he's not brilliant. Like, it's strange. But so I've seen a player do this where they're like, I want my character to be incapable and a doofus at all times except when it matters. And Dungeons & Dragons doesn't have any structure for this in the rules, right? And this is my point, is this question of who's going to hero and when is incredibly important to us as human beings, right? And this should be able to be modeled in Dungeons & Dragons mechanically, right? And not just these two structures. Not like, I'm ready to hero with nothing at all times. I'm willing and capable with nothing. And then that's Ludacris. And then Queen Latifah, I'm not willing unless this small category comes in, right? And then I'm fully capable, right? And there are like 100 different configurations, but currently our Dungeons & Dragons rules only configure for optimal build, which is why we need this massive social interaction complexity, right? And I am starting to build this out in my game, but what I want is humanity to learn a lot about itself when it starts to do this in earnest at the macro level in Dungeons & Dragons, because I really think that's where the rubber is going to meet the road, and we are really, as humans, for evolution and intellectual evolution, that's when we're going to start to move forward. Like, we did gain a little bit about ourselves when we added high complexity to when we used high complexity for combat. We learned, how do we preserve ourselves and things, and how do we destroy ourselves and things, right? And that's not invaluable knowledge, but it's not the end of knowledge. And so End of the Road is a brilliant film. I really, really liked it. And I'm ready to go here and to really mechanically explore all these different configurations of heroing. I only hero when this happens, but then I'm fully capable. Oh, I'm fully capable, and I'm always ready, and I need nothing to hero, right? It's just really fast. And there's a lot more configurations, right? And so this is just one of the reasons why we need to build this deeper mechanical complexity. And it has started. Amanda Heyman started this. Gary Gygax built Dungeons & Dragons. Amanda Heyman, and made it a reality, right? Like, there were multiple hurdles to Dungeons & Dragons becoming a reality, right? Dave Arneson was one of them. He had a lot of ideas, flapped his gums, never did nothing. If Dungeons & Dragons was going to be real, Gary Gygax had to overcome his outrageous laziness and lack of belief in himself, right? He had to get the money. He had to print it. Arneson did none of that, right? He was just like, oh, I got an idea. Can you do 99% of the work? And then they put my name on the book. Gary Gygax made Dungeons and Dragons a reality. He brought Dungeons and Dragons to the world in 1974, and if it weren't for Gary Gygax, it wouldn't exist. I can tell you that right now. If it was up to David Arneson, it would have been an idea scrawled on a napkin and would have ended up in a landfill, right? Because that dude did nothing but flap his gums and talk about a few ideas in his head, right? The real obstacles to making Dungeons and Dragons actually exist. All got overcome by Gary Gygax. So. But Amanda Heyman came along and was like, yeah, okay, I see you, Gary Gygax. You gave us, high mechanical complexity in combat. I'm going to take the other two. I'm going to take one of the other pillars, and I will begin high mechanical complexity in social interaction. And that happened in Strixhaven. That's why Strixhaven is, in my humble opinion, the second most important canon book in all of Dungeons and Dragons. So really fascinating. So. The first canon book is that goes all the way back to like 1978, right? And comes all the way forward because it's just done in now. All that's my humble opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.